January's up. The transfer window's up. Have we signed anyone? No, we haven't. So, as you may have guessed, we've not signed anyone. Even though we've got a transfer budget of 69 million and a wage budget of 1.7 million pounds, basically, due to FFP, the board won't let me spend any money. We are going to fail FFP come the end of the season. However, there's obviously two bits of FFP. There's Premier League FFP and there's Continental Club Competitions FFP. According to a special source, e.g. Google, when we do fail FFP, we'll only really be fined a percentage. And I do remember someone mentioning that in the comments on a previous episode as well. So it won't really be the end of the world unless, knowing our luck, all of Google is wrong. The guy in the comments is wrong. We win the Premier League, get deducted 5 points, and then Man United end up winning the league. If that happens, that's FM history if you've ever wanted it. But I can't see that happening. Obviously, the only reason why we're projected to fail FFP is because we've grown ridiculously fast as a squad. And that basically means that players who probably last season were on like 70, 80k, got boosted up to your hundreds, 120Ks, and eventually 3-4 players end up doing that, and your increase from one season to another ends up being a little bit too much for the Premier League's liking. Gotta be fully honest though, I do think it's a bit of a dodgy rule, because obviously we're second in the Premier League right now. You can look at our wages. Obviously we've only got 4 players who are currently earning over £100,000 a week. And for a team like us that's competing in the Champions League, when you consider the quality of these players, our highest earner is Carlos Alenya. Look at them technical stats, only 24 years old as well. He's a key player for us. Really, our wages aren't that high, especially in comparison to Man United. And obviously I always talk about Man United on this game being quite overpowered this season, basically buying their way to the top of the league title. That's how they've caused us plenty of problems. And I think the fact that David De Gea or Stefan de Vrij or even Luke Shaw, the fact that these 3 players are earning over 200k a week as opposed to some of our players, and Man United have Pogba on 325k a week, I think it speaks for itself. And the fact that these guys ain't going to get punished from an FFP point of view simply because they were paying the same amount of wages last season, I think is a little bit ridiculous. So if the 5 points do kick in and end up causing us to lose the league come the end of the season, I'm going to be extremely disappointed. Obviously the plan kind of was to sell players like Dumic, try and offload players like Demirbay, try and offload players like Romeu or Nigel, but unfortunately there were just no takers for our players. Demirbay had an offer of only 7 million from Aston Villa, but for me, even at the age of 28, he's still worth a lot more than £7 million. We've got him contracted for the next 2 years, and I do believe that in the summer, I'll be able to get at least £10 or £12 million for him. As for Romeu, obviously only 1 year left on this guy's contract, 30 years old, but no one was coming in for him with transfer bids, only loan bids, and to be honest, we're already relatively short on numbers because our owners won't let us bring any players in. So it was kind of just like, no, I might as well just leave him at the club. I'm not going to loan him out. Now, in case you haven't quite realised yet, obviously our last game was the 2-1 loss against Manchester United, which basically left us in a lot of trouble. As the league currently stands, we're level on points with Man United. We've got a slightly worse goal difference. We've lost 2 more games than they have, but at the same time we've drawn less games than they have, and we've won an extra game. So both level on points at this current moment in time. Anything can really happen. So far this season, they've beat us once, we've beat them once. So even Steven at the moment. Last episode I said I'd play through the whole transfer window, simply because fixture-wise, we didn't really have too many interesting fixtures, as you can see. An FA Cup tie against Sheffield United, which we won 3-0. 2 legs against West Ham in the EFL Cup, which isn't really a cup we care about in terms of us as a team and our stature as a team. But to reach the final like we did last season, where we lost to Arsenal's youth side, it is satisfying. And if we can get the win against Man United at Wembley, hopefully it'll give us a bit of a mental advantage going into the final half of the season. We then beat Wolves 2-0 in the Premier League. We drew disappointingly to Sunderland. We actually went 2-0 down. Joel Osoro scored in the 17th minute, then Jerome Nguene scored in the 42nd minute. If you look at the stats, we completely dominated the game. Towards the end, we were throwing absolutely everyone forward. 65th minute, only took him 6 minutes to grab a goal. Gabriel Barbosa, we will take a look at the goals in a sec, and then Augustinson came in at the back post to level things up at 2-2. And to be honest, a team like Sunderland at home, it's a game we should really be winning, and you win that game and suddenly we've got an advantage over Man United. But considering we were 2-0 down, considering it was one of those games, you are going to have dodgy games, we showed phenomenal character to come back and at least get a point from the game. We had Watford where we won 3-0. Now Watford, we actually lost against them early on in the season. They were our first loss of the season, where we lost 3-2 at Vicarage Road. Watford are always an incredibly difficult team to play on this version of Football Manager because of the wing backs, but we man-marked them out the game, and it did take until the second half to finally find our rhythm and grab a goal, but we tweaked a lot that game and we eventually got the win. First leg at home, only 1-1 against West Ham in the EFL Cup. We then smashed them 4-0 to secure a 5-1 win on aggregate, and of course, as you already know, secure ourselves a win in the EFL Cup semi-final. We then beat Scunthorpe, League One side, I believe, 7th in League One. Pretty straightforward win for some of the youth lads in the FA Cup, so we do go into the next round, unfortunately, against Watford. If we take a look at some of the other teams, probably would have rather played someone like a Coventry or a Brentford and whatnot. But hopefully we will see some underdog upsets. And if we can get past Watford, which to be honest, if we don't, could be a blessing in disguise, because it means we can focus on the Champions League and the FA Cup, because we're fighting on a ridiculous number of fronts right now. We could end up hopefully getting an easy tie. And then talking about easy ties, it's always hard to go to Selhurst Park and try and get something from the game. Gabriel Barbosa in this second half of the season has started playing more games, is slowly but surely starting to rediscover his form and ability that we know he 100% has. He's got 10 goals for us this season, which is good. So, in terms of our form, we've been really, really solid. Now, this episode isn't going to be the Tottenham game. I'm actually going to try and break things down a little bit. We're going to look at some of the goals that I've just been speaking about. Keep this episode nice, short and snappy, and then the next episode will be our game against Spurs. So we're obviously not going to see all the goals scored within that kind of transfer window period in time, but I'm going to show you some of the really decent goals. Shane Duffy, ex-player of ours. Now going into the second half of this game, it was clear we were struggling against a Wolves side who were parking the bus. Kunz comes on. As we know, our little German has bags of pace, subbed him on, saw straight away how he used that 15 pace, 17 acceleration to get past Shane Duffy, direct ball over the top, and what a goal from him. Real nice build-up as well for Nyang to get the second, and this was kind of the game where I decided to give players like Kunz, like Barbosa, a little bit more of a chance, and they really did impress. So really nice link-up play there from the lads, and that's what we really need, you know, in tough games, where even though you look at the stats, we had 64% possession, 13 shots on target. Them games where it seems like you're going in at half-time away from home, you for some reason can't find the back of the net, and you've hit the woodwork twice in the first half. You've got to have that squad depth, the difference makers, to be able to come off the bench and give you that extra bit of creativity, extra bit of pace, and I believe we've been utilising our subs really, really well. Sunderland-wise, we're actually going to see all of the goals in this game. Absolutely gutted with the nature of the goals we conceded to Sunderland. Osoro got the first one. Both of them actually came from set pieces. It was just typical. a typical direct underdog Premier League side who, you've got to be awake from set pieces, and we've conceded too many goals for my liking from set pieces this season. Chesney getting beat at his near post, a ridiculously soft goal to concede, especially given that Sunderland are one of the teams at the moment currently fighting for relegation. It took until the 69th minute for us to really create the killer opportunity, which kind of gave us a bit of a glimmer of hope. So eventually Sunderland try to hoof the ball clear. Alenya picks the ball up, who finds Kunz. Like I said, he's been really, really good coming off the bench. Deserves a few starts. And talking about, coming off the bench, Barbosa has really been good for us. Picks the ball up straight away with 7 minutes to go. Runs straight back to the kickoff spot. And at this point, guys, we were overload. You know what I mean? Wing backs fully on attack. You can tell from their positioning. Going more direct. It was a game we couldn't really afford to lose. And when you're gunning for a team like Man United, and you want to win the Premier League, it's games like this where you somehow, when it looks like you're down and out, you think about some of Sir Alex Ferguson's better United teams that just don't give up, keep going till the final whistle, get them last-minute goals. That's exactly what we aim to become. Vorjek won the ball back on the right wing. Eventually, it gets played centrally to our more creative players. Morales has been very, very good for us, considering his a new signing from Argentina. And then I really weren't expecting Augustinson to run in at the back post, and he levelled there with 6 minutes to go. I felt like we could have potentially got the winner, and to be honest, we probably could have if Andre Gray didn't miss a sitter, but I'm not going to talk about that one because it kind of frustrated me at the time, to be honest. Next up was a comfortable 3-0 win against Watford. Kunz for me this game was brilliant. I do believe he started the game. No, he actually came on at half-time for, I think it was Andre Gray. It took us only 6 minutes to actually grab the first goal of the game. He's small, but he's pacey and he's got phenomenal footwork. Brings the ball into the box, finds Douglas for us to grab that first goal. And not only did he manage to grab that assist, but he also managed about 20 minutes later to grab the second goal of the game. And what an important goal it really was, because it gave us that little extra bit of comfort we really needed against a team like Watford, who was so good on the counter-attack. We man-marked their wide players, their wing-backs, and went in hard on their three midfielders, who were really players like Will Hughes, Jack Wilshere. Creative players, but didn't really want them to be able to play football and create opportunities. And to add insult to injury, Augustinson, obviously not normally our free kick taker. I'm not actually quite sure what his free kick attributes is. Only 13, but for him to step up, when Douglas was off the pitch, and Alenya was off the pitch as well. Surprised Rog didn't take the free kick, but Augustinson stepped up. He, of course, got the equaliser against Sunderland and grabbed himself a goal in the 88th minute. Good free kick from him. And as you guys can see, we really do always struggle against Watford, and it was a really even game. But that's it. When it's a really even game, you manage to get a 3-0 win. It really does make you feel good. We're not going to look at the highlights for the West Ham game. A simple 4-0 win against them in the EFL Cup. Now, West Ham normally under Gary Monk, quite a good side. But let's just say we had our shooting boots on. Andre Gray getting on the score sheet. Barbosa again, which was really satisfying. It was nice to also see Morales get a goal. I said we weren't actually going to see the goals, but Morales' strike really does deserve to be seen. From the match stats, 22 shots, 12 on target. We were brilliant. It all started off with a Kunz corner. Morales picks it up on the edge of the box. Sure, it took a deflection, but take a bow, son. That was a phenomenal strike from over 30 yards out. As the commentator says, what a goal from a player who, without a shadow of a doubt, is going to turn into quite the hell of a player for us in a few years' time. Only 19 years old, but the right attributes in the right areas. Last but not least, we are, of course, going to ignore our game against Scunthorpe. Only a 1-0 win against Crystal Palace. As you can see, we get shots on target for days. Marco Piaka's goals, as you've probably realised, have kind of dried up very recently. He kind of goes through dry spells, and he is being warned. But fortunately, Piaka comes out, Barbosa gets a go, and Barbosa is actually most certainly taking his chances, or has been taking his chances recently. And he grabbed our only goal of the game, and it was such a perfect time to score as well. Real nice back heel from Augustinson into Niang. So satisfying when our fullbacks are so good and can get involved going forward as much as they do defensively. Very good finish from Barbosa, scoring in the 44th minute. So Crystal Palace manager Alan Pardew, I think it still is, completely had to rethink his plans. What was really frustrating, though, was the fact that we did, I believe it was, hit the post twice early on in that first half, and it just kind of felt like it was going to be one of them games where absolutely nothing was going to go right. But that is going to be it for this episode. Next episode will be the Spurs game. If some of you are disappointed that there is no actual game, I think you'll agree it's been a pretty long episode so far, and we've had quite a few games over the transfer period. So I think they kind of merited a decent update like you guys have seen. In terms of what's going on in the world of transfers, let's just say there's one transfer in particular that really has me worried. And it's the transfer, Divock Origi, from Real Madrid to Manchester United. And I'm not going to lie, it worries me. The fact that our board didn't let us make any transfers in the window because of FFP, yet Man United are free, completely free to spend £23 million, that could still increase, for Real Madrid's Divock Origi. Now, Rashford's up front, 19 goals for him. Pedro Melo, of course, was the regen that they purchased in the summer to replace Morata, Portuguese 20-year-old, who's also been dishing in with some goals. And now they've got Divock Origi, who's a very, very, very good player on Football Manager. And I think that's portrayed by the fact that Real Madrid signed him. I can't help but feel like at the moment they have the upper edge against us. Maybe not based on the fixture list, but they definitely have the upper edge in terms of personnel. But I'd say the biggest signing I really wanted to make in the January transfer window was, I've got no idea how to pronounce this. And normally I like to think I'm okay when it comes to pronunciation, but I've got no idea what the difference between that A and that A is. So I'm just going to pronounce it all as a normal A. Catalin Staicu, I think is how you'd say it. I don't speak Romanian, but as you can see, 325k, be able to maybe pick him up for about $1 million. We've not fully scouted him, but he looks like a very, very tidy player. He's 20 years of age and probably could have ended up being a half-decent signing. But unfortunately, again, we couldn't really sign anyone. We do have a few other interesting players on our shortlist. One player I kind of had an eye on was Makis, this is going to be a mouthful, Venetsanopoulos. Currently plays for Olympiacos, but in the end decided against it. He does have a relatively low number in his release clause, but his work rate wasn't really what I think we needed for a 20-year-old. Normally, if I am going to buy a young player, I prefer to sign him around 18, 17, because I feel like I still have kind of room to try and mould him into what I want. Another very good potential signing for the summer, 18 years of age, Nicola Burchert, very fast, very good finishing composure, decent work rate as well, says a lot when he's German, and again, very low wages. But again, you know, as you can see, we've got a decent shortlist, particularly from the age of 20 and down. We do have quite a few young players. This guy looks very, very good, almost like kind of Thierry Henry-esque, dare I say it. Quite pacey, good dribbling, really good finishing. Still has a lot of work to do for a 20-year-old, though. Don't get me wrong, none of these regens in particular are phenomenal, but it is nice to bring in youngsters who will add something to the side and build up, but we can't make any signings at the moment, and that's the reality of the situation we're in. Whether or not come the end of the season it ends up costing us the title yet again, we'll have to wait and see. But that is going to be it for this episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I definitely did. I think it was a little bit different to what we normally do, but I think it's also likewise very important that you guys are well aware of what's happening in our little makeshift Football Manager universe. Next up is Spurs. Until post-Spurs, the next episode will, of course, be our first leg of our Champions League game away in Portugal against Benfica. Then we have some real interesting games coming up. Man United, Man City, Benfica again. That's going to be one hell of a run of games. And then, well, it's going to be the final run of games until the end of the season. But I'll tell you what, I'd much rather have our final run of games than Man United's final run of games. They've got Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League, and their last 3 games of the season are Liverpool, Man City and Chelsea. Both last games away from home. If the Premier League ends up being really tight, which it probably will be, providing we stop slipping up in areas where we shouldn't, like the Sunderland game, this title race is really, really going to become hot and spicy. So if you like the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Of course you want to hit the subscribe button. You want to be, synchronized in with this title race. The 2021-22 title race is hotting up. Can Blackburn Rovers get their second title, or Premier League title? We'll have to wait and see. Thanks for watching.